Take a look at futures. Now a little bit of a mixed bag. We've actually seen the Dow tick lower in the futures trading market just within the last half an hour or so. Dow is now down 53, but S&P still higher by 15 in the pre-market. NASDAQ up 141. Momentum is carrying over after a strong October finish as investors bet on AI. Take a look at the Dow for the month of October, 2.5%. NASDAQ up 4.7%. S&P up 2.27%. And then take a look at NVIDIA this morning. Stock is climbing almost 2%. There are reports that the U.S. is going to approve exports of its advanced AI chips to the UAE. We just had the Interior Secretary, by the way, on the program last hour. Meanwhile, another busy week for earnings. You've got Palantir after the bell today, AMD, Pfizer, Uber, McDonald's all coming out this week. But all eyes are on Wednesday's Supreme Court hearing on President Trump's tariff plan. The president is not going to be attending oral arguments, but he did say that tariffs are critical to national security, calling it one of the most important decisions in the history of our country. Meanwhile, China is suspending new export controls on rare earth metals, ending investigations into U.S. chip makers as part of the new trade deal between President Trump and Xi Jinping. The U.S. is pausing some tariffs for another year while scrapping plans for the 100% duty on Chinese goods. I want to bring in Heritage Foundation Chief Economist and Unleash Prosperity Senior Fellow, EJ Antoni. EJ, your reaction to that?
Well, Cheryl, I think it just goes to show once again that the president's strategy here is definitely working. I mean, it's very clear what the playbook is. He threatens these tariffs that he knows are going to do far more harm to whatever the other country is, in this case China, than they will to the United States. There's obviously a war of words, but the other country always ends up backing down. This whole taco trade that they talk about, right? Trump always chickens out. I'm sorry, but it really seems like it's the opposite. It tends to be that the other country chickens out, and it tends to be that the other country will give in to the president. At the end of the day, the fact is that as the debtor nation in a lot of these trade relationships, we just have more leverage. You throw on top of that, Cheryl, the fact that we have the biggest economy as well, and it's just even more leverage on top of that.
The last Treasury report from September 30th, because of the tariff revenue coming in total, we're to $215.2 billion for the fiscal year. Many were hoping that those numbers were going to be higher.
Well, Cheryl, one of the things I think we should remember when we look at the fiscal year is that the first two quarters overlapped with the Biden administration. So it's really only the second half of the year that's exclusively the Trump administration. And even for, if you want to look at the entirety of the Trump administration, you didn't have tariffs during that entire time, at least not the new ones. And so the customs duties did not tick up for several months. But if we do look at just the Trump administration, those last two quarters, instead of the first two quarters that overlapped with Biden, what we find is that only about a quarter of the total deficit for the fiscal year is there. In other words, the Biden administration, in the first two quarters there, you saw 3/4 of the annual deficit. We are making significant progress in shrinking that deficit, putting us back on a fiscally sustainable path. I'm not saying we're there yet. I'm not saying it's all sunshine and rainbows, but these are steps in the right direction.
Yeah, no. There's a great piece in the Journal this morning how the U.S. economy has defied doomsday predictions on tariffs, just speaking to how we are in such a different place than we were on Liberation Day from a market perspective. I do want to look at the 10-year with you. This has been fascinating watching the 10-year. Now, we're barely above 4%, 4.114%. We did dip below 3% a week before last. And then Dallas Fed President Lori Logan is opposing last week's quarter point cut. She's warning against another move for December. Cleveland Fed President Beth Hammack believes the economy doesn't need more easing. Governor Christopher Waller, though, opposite view. He's calling for another cut because of the labor market data. I want to get your take on that. Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic is backing the move, but he says December is not assured. You know, Jay Powell, EJ, said that another cut is not a foregone conclusion. That didn't really, comfort the markets in any way, shape, or form. Your reaction to that?
Well, Cheryl, I think part of the whole problem this whole discussion we're having around interest rates, the problem is the framework in which we're having it. In other words, the Fed created an entirely new monetary framework back in 2020. They're still trying to maintain it today. That's why they're having difficulty, for example, getting the secured overnight financing rate back down. They're really struggling here. It's not that we're in a full-blown financial crisis or anything like that, but when you are paying banks hundreds of millions of dollars a day, specifically not to lend money, that's affecting real interest rates in the private economy. It's making interest more expensive on your mortgage, your student loans, your auto loans, your car loans. It's making it more expensive on credit cards. It's even pushing up those Treasury yields. I think the big reason why Treasury yields came down, actually, going back to what we were saying earlier, was specifically that September monthly statement from the Treasury that showed we are getting back on a fiscally sustainable path, and that helped push down those Treasury yields. And in fact, they put in a new low for the year. But again, on the Fed, they just have to get rid of this newfangled monetary framework that doesn't work and go back to the tried and true methods.
Right. Well, you know, the shutdown is entering day 34. I want to ask you this before we go here, because Senator Ted Cruz told Maria he expects the Democrats are going to reopen the government after Election Day tomorrow. Watch this.
Will the government open this upcoming week? This is getting seriously impacting the U.S. economy. What's your take?
I think it's likely to open Wednesday or Thursday of this week. The Democrats will wait until after Election Day because they think a shutdown is good for energizing the crazies in their party. But I think it'll be either late this week or early next week.
Are you going to have to give on the Obamacare subsidies?
No, the Democrats will collapse entirely.
You know, if the doors stay closed in Washington another day, this ties for the longest shutdown in history, EJ.
Well, exactly, Cheryl. But one of the things that I always kind of, I guess, bothered me from the beginning, or not bothered me, maybe puzzled me is the better word, is that if the Democrats just try to stick to this forever and we get to that 60-day threshold that a lot of people have talked about, that really gives the president, the Trump administration, a lot more options. It really puts a lot more tools in their toolkit for doing things like reducing the size of the federal workforce, a bunch of things that basically the governments absolutely hate the Democrats hate and they want nothing to do with. They don't want the president to have that kind of authority. And so it never really seemed like the opposition kind of had an end game solution here. So I would expect that they're going to give in sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no, it's certainly, we're getting to later tomorrow, 35 days. EJ Antoni, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We'll be right back, everybody.